Every day, as you flip a switch and the lights come on, you trust that a complex network of wires and power plants is working reliably to keep your world illuminated. But what if that trust is nothing more than an illusion? What if the energy grid, the lifeblood of modern society, is being manipulated by corporate interests to serve profit over public good? Tonight, we dive deep into the conspiracy theory that alleges corporate giants are not just supplying power, but actively controlling and even sabotaging the energy grid for their own gain. In the early days of the deregulation of energy markets, the promise was simple: increase competition, lower prices, and improve service. But as decades passed, many began to notice a disturbing pattern: sudden blackouts in key regions, unexplained outages during peak pricing periods, and energy bills that seemed to defy market logic. Critics argue that these anomalies aren't random glitches or natural disasters. They're calculated moves in a high-stakes game of energy control. Consider the notorious blackouts that have periodically swept through major metropolitan areas. In 2003, the Northeast blackout left 50 million people in the dark for hours, disrupting daily life and costing billions in economic loss. While officials blamed a cascading failure in the grid, some insiders claim that behind-the-scenes maneuvers by powerful energy conglomerates could have contributed to, or even engineered, the chaos. They suggest that by deliberately overloading parts of the grid, these companies could trigger shutdowns that benefit their rivals or allow them to reposition market share. But it doesn't stop at accidental blackouts. Whistleblowers have come forward with unsettling stories of encrypted internal memos and clandestine meetings where energy executives allegedly discussed load-shedding tactics, strategies to intentionally cut power to certain neighborhoods or industrial zones. Imagine a scenario where a company, facing a potential drop in profit margins, decides to deliberately shut off power to a particular area, only to later sell energy at a premium during the recovery period. It's a move that could line the pockets of those at the top while leaving ordinary citizens in the dark. There's also the intriguing connection to financial markets. Energy futures and electricity prices are subject to wild fluctuations. Some theorists argue that these fluctuations are not entirely natural. They are, in fact, manipulated by those who control the grid. By timing outages or strategically directing power flow, corporate players might be able to influence market prices, profiting from the chaos they create. Evidence of such manipulation can be seen in the timing of certain blackouts. In several documented cases, outages occurred during critical hours when energy prices were spiking and trading volumes were at their highest. These incidents, dismissed by regulators as unforeseen technical failures, have led conspiracy theorists to wonder who really benefits when the lights go out. And while the public sees a system run by engineers and government regulators, the reality behind closed doors might be far more sinister. Energy companies wield enormous power over not just the grid, but over policy decisions and regulatory frameworks. Lobbyists work tirelessly to shape legislation in favor of corporate interests, ensuring that even when the grid fails, the companies remain shielded from accountability. Some claim that in a few high-level boardrooms, executives discuss emergency protocols that include controlled blackouts as a tool for market manipulation. Critics point to cases where alternative energy solutions were stifled, projects that could have decentralized power production and given control back to local communities. Instead, the grid remains centralized, vulnerable to manipulation by a handful of corporate behemoths. This centralization makes it easier to orchestrate outages, adjust supply, and ultimately control the flow of energy to maximize profits. Skeptics argue that these theories are nothing more than wild speculations by those who distrust big corporations. They insist that blackouts and price surges are the result of aging infrastructure and natural market fluctuations, not the machinations of a shadowy cabal. But when you examine the data, the timing of outages, the correlation with market spikes, the internal whistleblower testimonies, a more disturbing picture begins to emerge. If the energy grid is indeed being manipulated, then the consequences extend far beyond inconvenient blackouts. It's about control, a control over a resource so essential that it underpins every aspect of our daily lives. When power is in the hands of a few, They can decide who gets light and who is left in the dark. They can shape economies, influence political outcomes, and determine the very pace of technological progress. As we piece together the clues from multiple incidents over the past 2 decades, one unsettling question remains. Are we witnessing a systematic abuse of power where corporate greed trumps public welfare? Could the grid, a symbol of modern civilization, be used as a tool to keep the masses subservient and profit margins soaring? The truth, as always, is shrouded in layers of bureaucracy and technical jargon, but the patterns are there for those who dare to look. From the 2003 Northeast blackout to the more recent incidents of unexplained outages, a narrative of manipulation and control unfolds. What do you think? Are the anomalies in our energy grid mere accidents of aging infrastructure, or are they part of a calculated strategy to manipulate the market and control the power supply? Is corporate influence so deep that it reaches into the very wires that light our homes? Let us know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and always remember, sometimes the greatest power lies not in the energy we consume, but in the secrets hidden behind the grid.